Let's get some perspective now with our political analyst, Brian Sobel. And Brian, I want to start with the nuclear option.
Yes.
We know that Democrats did this a few years ago with judicial appointments, but this is the first time for a Supreme Court nominee. Does this essentially up the ante?
Oh, absolutely. It's the last bar that needed to be jumped in terms of judicial appointments. So it was a big deal. It was avoidable, but both sides chose not to avoid it.
Brian, what's happening in Washington? Why is there such a wide divide? Why are people not working together like they used to?
I think, Frank, it goes back to what's happening in local districts and in states. We're seeing now elections where it's just 3 million people difference in number of votes for, say, the president. In towns and counties across the country, 51% to 49, unless they're in districts where they've been gerrymandered to provide a win to a certain side. I think it's just the state of the country right now. We're very divided, but we have been in history, and we'll come out of it eventually.
Yeah, it seems like we've been talking about this partisan gridlock for some time.
Yes.
I want to touch a little bit on what President Trump said today in regards to Syria. Probably his strongest words yet, and there is word tonight that he is considering military action there.
Well, and you think about going back in time, and he advised as a candidate and so forth, don't get involved in a fight that isn't ours.
Right.
So you wonder whether these pictures that are emerging from Syria of these children or anything else happening there really caught his attention. And now we're looking at potentially the Trump administration trying to putting together a coalition. We've heard that all before.
This is just a huge day in Washington,
Yes.
especially for President Trump. There's also the issue with North Korea test firing nuclear weapons. And now he's meeting with the leader of China. What is at stake with China? What does he need to do during this two-day summit?
Well, to the extent that he could get agreement from the Chinese president to have North Korea pull in their horns in terms of the ballistic missile testing and the intercontinental ballistic missile testing that's being done in short ranges, the better off we're going to be and the better off the world's going to be. But it doesn't look like the North Korean aims have been truncated at all, and China doesn't seem to have had any effect on them. But that's going to be his mission, is to have the North Koreans finally find a more peaceful role in the world. But I'm not sure that's going to happen. And then, don't forget, there's all these relations that we need to discuss with China vis-a-vis the United States. I mean, there's just a whole lot of things on the table. And when you think about it, this is Donald Trump's busiest day in office by far.
And President Trump, of course, very critical of China on the campaign trail.
Well,
so
and he's got to talk about that during their meetings.
All right, Brian.